can't see us.
Bye. Good morning, Litchfield. Thank you for joining us this morning. And I just wanted to thank everybody who sent us questions for this discussion group this morning with our candidates for our state representative from the town of Litchfield. Joining us this morning, we have Rich LaSalle, Republican, incumbent. We have Ralph Bohm, incumbent, Republican. We have Joe Stanich Burke, a new challenger to the state rep seat, who is a Democrat. And you have me, your trustee moderator for this discussion today. I want to start off by thanking everybody who's here to do this for us, because sometimes at the end I forget and I don't want to do that. But I want to thank the members of Litchfield Public Television that are here, the community TV group, Russ and Oscar, for showing up as always for us so that you can see us. I want to thank Jason Brennan as always in the WhatsApp page for presenting this forum so that we can talk to everybody and you can get a chance to see our candidates, what they look like. And not only what they look like, as I've gotten better, you actually get to know their positions on some of the topics that you've asked a million questions for. The rules today are simple. If I start to get bored or if they're droning on, I'm going to hit my gavel. If I hit my gavel, they have 15 words to complete their thought. If they need more, they're going to raise their hand. I'm going to give them 15 more most likely. If they continue to talk, they're going to lose their next question. Everybody's agreed to those terms because it will just keep everything moving. We have a lot to talk about today. Lots of topics that are very important at the state level. I'm going to ask you all, whoever you're voting for, please get out there and vote. We need your participation. The local decisions that you make affect your life more so than the big things that happen at the top. So I'm going to ask you for that as well. I'm going to start right out with a question, and I'm going to have you each introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell me what town boards you've served on. Tell me whether they're in Litchfield or other towns. I want you to tell me if you're at the state rep level, which committees you do or have served on. And I'm going to ask you, if you haven't been up there, what committees you may like to serve on. So I'm going to start with you, Mr. LaSalle, down there ahead across from me. Good morning, Rich.
Good morning, and good morning to everybody out there. My name is Rich LaSalle. This will be my the fourth time that I will be on the ballot as a state rep. I moved here in 1979 after getting out of the Navy for 10 years and immediately got involved in the town. On the rec committee, I coached softball teams and basketball teams, and on the rec committee, we did a lot of work trying to get kids involved. A group of us put together a summer camp at Dara Pond, which was very successful. At one time, we had as many as 100 people in that camp. The gymnasium, Talent Hall, was on its last legs. It was about to fall in, and a group of us got together and refurbished it. We recruited the National Guard from up in Manchester to come down and use it as training, and we were able to save the Talent Hall, and it's been used ever since. That was in the early 90s.
What boards have you served on, Rich? Rec?
Yeah, currently a selectman. I served on the rec committee, the budget committee, the school board. I don't know if I'm forgetting anything. As far as in Concord, I've served on the State and Federal Relations Committee, the Veterans Affairs Committee, and I currently serve on the Municipal and County Government Committee.
Thank you very much, Rich. Ralph?
Hi. Hello out there. I am Ralph Bohm, a resident of Litchfield for 46 years, a couple of years longer than Rich. I've been a selectman, budget committee, school board, and recreation commission. That was a total of 22 years, not all at the same time. Been a state rep for 14 years, so this will be my 8th term coming up. So I've been helping this town for more than 32 years, and I would like to continue to help. For all of these positions, I have not taken any campaign donations from any individual, company, or union. I do not owe anybody anything. My votes are to first help Litchfield, then the state. Presently, I am the Assistant Majority Leader and Committee Ranking Majority Leader, formerly Committee Vice Chair and Ranking Republican numerous times, also on the County Executive Committee. You know, the state reps are your county legislation board. I'm on the Education Committee and also been on election law and always push for what is best for the children and parents. And also, like Rich, I helped on Talent Pond, hall and the grounds and whatnot right after the town got access to them, and Rich led that area. So I hope to be, also served on other committees as fill-ins. They always call me because, so that's it. And I just like to continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your service. Joe?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Joe Stanich-Burke, and I'm a first-time candidate running for state representative. I've been in Litchfield with my husband and my 2 kids now for a few years, and so I'm really excited for the investment that we have in this town moving forward. Looking at capacities for, if I'm elected to the state representatives, I would really like to focus on committees such as the Children and Family Law Committee. As a father of 2, that is something that's important to me, and I would like to possibly sit on that committee. And of course, as a rural agricultural town, serving on one of the conservation committees or agricultural committees, environmental committees would be something that I'd be very interested in as well.
That would be fabulous, being on the Conservation Commission. I think that's amazing. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. I do have one question for our state reps that are currently serving. How many votes have you missed this year, guys?
I think I missed 1 or 2.
Out of, I know you were hospitalized.
No, I wasn't hospital. I didn't miss any because I was in the hospital.
Oh, okay.
I missed because I had to go pee. But
I love you.
and it happens because they don't give you any breaks. So you think you time it properly, and you go to the bathroom. Of course, it takes me a little longer, but you go to the bathroom. Sometimes you come back. So I've missed a couple.
All right, so how many sessions have you missed? Is that a better question?
I'm very proud of the fact that this is my 3rd term, 6 years, missed 0 sessions.
Ralph, same.
This year, I haven't missed any sessions, but I did miss half of a session because I was at CMC.
Okay.
Incident, which was medicine control.
That was not this last year, it was the year before, wasn't it?
No, that was this past.
That was this year? Okay.
Past year.
That kind of goes into my next question, which is how much time do you spend there, and how do you, I'm going to have them answer first so that you get an idea of how many hours that they spend, and how do you manage that in your lives? How many hours do you spend as a state rep up in Concord? A month or a week, whatever is.
Well, of course, it varies greatly depending on the time of year. If we're in session, you're up there 2 or 3 days a week, plus the committee meetings. You have committee meetings that take place on an irregular basis. But I would say from December through June, it probably averages 20 or 25 hours a week. Now, in addition to that, I spend a lot of time on my laptop, and a lot of that is like Zoom meetings and so forth. Okay. So that would be 20 to 25 hours a week plus
plus whatever.
Plus
okay.
laptop.
Does that sound about right, Ralph?
I had one on the Education Committee, and we had 1,000 bills this year. So I would, and my other duties came out probably like January through March, probably four full days a week,
Okay.
like 32 hours. And then also being on the executive committee on the county, that's at least one full day a month in Goffstown, so it's not just what's in Concord.
I know that you have said in the past that it's very difficult to get younger candidates to run. Those time constraints are one of those reasons, I'm imagining.
No, not necessarily time constraints. I would say that the way that the state of representatives in New Hampshire is set up makes it disenfranchises a lot of younger people who, since the position isn't paid. So a lot of people who are trying to pay off student loan debts or trying to make enough money to purchase a house, they don't have the luxury of working for practically free. I think that's just one of the reasons why it kind of disenfranchises a lot of younger people to
Because
to
they
run.
can't do it as a career.
They
because
can't
don't
do it
get
as a
paid.
career because they don't get paid. And so I'm in a very fortunate position where I work in marketing, and so my job is very flexible. So prior to doing this, I received the support from my boss in addition to
Nice.
my husband. And so I'm able to make it work, and I'm really looking forward to that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
May I comment on that?
Yes,
If you look at they say the average age in the house, something like 63, but I remember some years ago, one of the channels did a demographics, and it's pretty much close to the state on the age groups. There are a lot of women, probably more, percentage-wise, there's probably more women in New Hampshire State House than any other in this country. There are age groups from 18 to
we have an
90.
18-year-old state rep that's out there.
There
right
have
now.
been.
Yeah.
And now we got some 20-year-olds and whatnot, so.
So we did talk about what it pays. It pays $100
Yeah.
a year for all the work that's entitled to it, and I don't know how that changes, if it changes.
It's in the
And out of that
Constitution.
$100, there are federal taxes taken out and Social Security out of the $100 that they're paid.
I know.
They do get mileage to and from Concord, and the new rate is like 62 cents a mile, isn't it? I think it's gone up because of the amount.
whatever the federal
cost
rate
of
is,
gas. And they get an easy pass, guys, so, that makes me wanna sign up.
Just for New
For
Hampshire.
100 hours a week and an
Just
easy
for New
pass.
Hampshire, the easy pass.
Oh, just for New Hampshire, well, for the most time, you'd be doing your business in, here. And Ralph, were you gonna answer me on how that rate would change? Who would vote that in?
No, it doesn't get voted. It's stated that we will get the federal rate for mileage.
Oh, yeah, no, I was
For
talking
the
about the
salary,
$100.
the salary is in the Constitution.
It's in the Constitution, so it won't change.
So it won't change. It would take a constitutional amendment to change that.
Okay,
Diane, could I comment on that?
yeah,
Another way to look at that is that when you get old, like Ralph and I, you have time on your hands. So, other folks pay thousands of dollars to go on cruises. They travel the world. They chase a little white ball around Passaconaway or something. So in all of these cases, it costs them a great deal of money. In our case, we get to sit with wonderful people, some of the smartest people in the state. It's a beautiful state house, great surroundings, and we don't have to pay for that privilege. They pay us to do it. So
do they give you lunch ever?
occasionally.
All right, that's enough on that, we're moving on now, guys. Okay, let's see, where do I wanna go now? Let's go to, there's a resident who would like to know about the times, if any, you actually voted against what your parties stand for. And if so, can we have examples and why you did do that? So I spent a lot of time with the people who asked some of these questions too, to make sure I got the question correct. And what she basically wants to know is whether you voted for a state issue or you voted on your own ballot. What did your party stand for, something that you voted, that you wouldn't vote for? Did you have something that you went against the Ralph and Rich, the Republican Party? Or do you always vote a straight Republican ticket, or straight Republican line?
No, I mean, that's, the one thing that comes to mind certainly is that we have a crisis here in New Hampshire, particularly southern New Hampshire, for workforce housing. And in my case, I have always been a proponent of an increase in workforce housing.
And is that against your party line?
Well,
Party
not
line?
necessarily against the party line, but a lot of people feel that home rule takes precedence over everything. And I feel that, because of this crisis, we can't always depend on just the individual municipalities to decide that. So I'm a proponent of more workforce housing.
Okay, thank you. Ralph?
Yeah, I look at it this way. I'm there representing the people of Litchfield, the state, then the party. For example, there's some organizations that rate us. For example, I only got a B+ with the New Hampshire Liberty Alliance, which pretty much goes by the party platform. Also, I only got like a 95 with the Republican Alliance, and that goes by the platform. So like the majority leader once said at a meeting we had, he said, "Ralph, do you vote for the platform?" And I said, I don't. I vote for what's best for the people, and not even for myself.
Do you have an example of one of those things, Ralph, that was a party platform thing that you said, no, you want me to vote for that, but I'm not going to. I don't support that.
Well, one was, and I got flack from it, was the election dates. Some people wanted to move it to June for the primary. I said, no way. And that was the platform at the time. June. I said August, then hopefully push for August again. But June was to me, a total waste, and I got calls on it.
Why did you think that?
Because having the primary in June means filing would probably have to be in March, which is the town elections and all that. So it would be, and other towns have their elections in May. So having another election in June, it just wouldn't be. August is plenty, early enough. In September, really bad. We don't have that much time between the primary and the election.
Joe?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I haven't served as a state rep yet, but.
Right, and that's why I was like, I can't.
Yeah, well, yeah, I can still comment. So like, one of the things that I've been doing since announcing my candidacy is that I've been leading with issues first over parties. So if you look at my website, my marketing materials, I never actually mentioned that I'm a Democrat because I believe the issues that I'm running on are more important than any sort of party affiliation. And the issues on the platform that I'm running on have a overwhelmingly vast majority of New Hampshire's and Litchfield people support. And so, if I am elected, I would say that you can count on me to lead on those issues and not on party lines. Okay.
What are the top 2 or 3 issues that you are thinking affect Litchfield? And Joe, I'm going to hit you first on this one.
Yeah, I think 2 or 3 you said?
Yeah, 1 or 2.
Oh, 1 or 2, okay, yeah.
Whatever your top.
Yeah, I think the 2 issues that I think are affecting Litchfield the most would be the cost of things. So skyrocketing property taxes, skyrocketing utility bills. I would say those 2 things are probably affecting Litchfield the most, in addition to education, I think is a very important issue for people in our town.
Okay, thank you. Ralph?
Yeah, my big thing, I was on the education committee, is school transparency. The child belongs to the parent, does not belong to the school. And anything that happens in the school that is not breaking the law, laws already covering what the teacher should do, called DCYS, that kind of thing. But any other thing, it's the parent's right. To know what is going on. So if a kid goes to a school and I want to know about this, I'm sorry, I can't talk to you about that without telling your parents and those kind of things. School, I mean, one of the problems is the education freedom account. I'm formally for that.
I have a whole question on that.
Okay, I'll wait on that.
Can you wait on that one? Yeah.
Yes, I'll wait on that.
But that's an important issue in your.
Right,
Okay,
yes.
so we're going to expound on that.
Okay, good.
I have questions.
Okay, good.
Rich? Thank you, Ralph.
I happen to think that we live in a wonderful country, the USA. It's a shining light for the world. I happen to think that each of the states are laboratories of the great American democracy. And New Hampshire, to me, is, again, a shining light on the hill, because we have that live free and die or die spirit that really sets us apart. And I think here in Litchfield, we have a wonderful town that fits right in. There's no place that I would rather be than right here in Litchfield, New Hampshire. With respect to what Joe said about the high rate of cost, yes, we do have high property taxes. That's true.
Can you just give me what your top 2 or 3 issues are for Litchfield?
For Litchfield, maintaining the New Hampshire advantage.
Okay.
Low taxes, high efficiency in government, encouraging small business. Those are the 3 things that I really am.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's see.
Your time is out.
Do you want the gavel?
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to skip around because I kind of have people grouped by who asked questions, but I'm going to go right to this one then. How do you feel about legalization of marijuana? If you aren't for it, are you at least willing to support its removal as a Schedule I drug at the federal level? And if you are for it, if you do support legalization, how would it be controlled in regard to sales, driving under the influence, relying on roadside tests? So basically, let's get right to the marijuana, folks. Joe, I'm going to hit you first again.
Yeah, this is a really important issue for me because I feel like this can tackle a lot of the issues that New Hampshire's experiencing right now. So something that I would like to see happen is New Hampshire to legalize marijuana. I would love the state to control, manage, sell, and grow the product and sell it similar to how we handle liquor in the state. In doing so, I believe there's a good reason for us to tax those sales and use the revenue to fund public education. And in doing so, we would also be lowering the property taxes, since New Hampshire ranks 50th in the country for state funding for public education. We rely too heavily on property taxes of individual people. So I think by putting a sales tax on marijuana and using that revenue stream to fund public education, we'd be doing a very big service for the people of Litchfield and New Hampshire.
How will it be controlled as far as the driving under the influence and?
Yeah, I would say similar.
different-
Yeah, similar to how the state manages alcohol.
Are there other states that have already done this having any kind of problems with it?
No, so
Colorado, Massachusetts?
I would argue that legalizing marijuana and having the state control it would actually be a benefit of having someone trying to buy it off the
Safer.
street. It'd be a lot safer if the state controls it. So right now, New Hampshire is the sole state in New England to legalize it. So we're losing on millions and millions of dollars that people in New Hampshire are going to Vermont, Maine, Massachusetts, and buying marijuana when we could be collecting that revenue and investing it back into our communities.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to you next, Ralph.
Yeah,
Are you for legalization?
I am against it because it's just another gateway drug.
Okay.
And you talk to.
So would you change it from a Schedule I drug?
I mean, that's something the legislature and Congress has to do. We have no control over that.
Right, okay.
So the thing
Well,
is.
but we kind of do. If we're going to legalize it at the local level, we are changing what the federal government says that
Right.
we can do, because the federal government says it's a Schedule I drug that has the same legal ramifications as heroin and
Right.
fentanyl and all the other drugs that are out there.
Yeah, and that's the problem. The federal government isn't. So what if it's against the law? They're not enforcing it, just like other things.
Okay.
But the thing is, to me, talking to different addicts, how did you get to become an addict? Well, I started on marijuana or alcohol. Then I went to the other, and then there wasn't enough, so I kept going. Now, we passed a law, tried to pass a law last year, but the Senate, it barely passed the House, similar to what Joe had said. It was going to, a lot of it was going to go to education, and also some of it for helping drugs addiction in school kids. So wait a minute. And that barely passed because, wait a minute, first we're selling it for get money for education, but yet we're also got to put money aside from the selling to take care of school children addicts. So, I mean, it was sending the wrong message. So my
Felt
joke,
it had a dual message.
what my joke on that was for, Dad, why are you smoking marijuana? Didn't you say it was bad? But it's for your education. I mean,
Okay,
that
thank you
didn't go
very
right.
much. Ralph, can I ask you,
Hey, Rich.
Rich, would you vote to legalize marijuana?
Well, I'd have to see what the individual bill, in my 6 years in the legislature, I've seen a variety of bills come up on marijuana. And each of them is a little bit different. I think it's going to happen at some point because I've seen a tremendous change in society in general, as well as right here in New Hampshire. I think we have to look at it very closely, though, because even though people think it's harmless, I think the jury's still out in some cases with respect to that. So
You do have a medicinal prescription, but you can't get it filled, I don't think. I don't know.
Yeah,
Well,
there's places in the state.
There are places in the state
yes.
that will fill it.
I get my health care through the VA, and I'm constantly in pain.
Yeah.
So if the VA were to give me marijuana, I would smoke it.
Atta
All
guy.
right?
Okay.
Now, as a child of the 60s and 70s, I'm
not going to ask you if you inhaled or anything.
I didn't.
You did.
But like I say, I think it'll happen. It would depend on the actual bill that comes up, whether I vote for it or not.
Okay.
I'm not dead set against it because I realize that society is changing. But I would leave you with one thing. If cigarettes, if tobacco wasn't legal, or if it was legal, if states didn't get tremendous revenue from tobacco, it would be illegal
And it should be.
because it does terrible harm.
Yep.
Because when you
And it drives up insurance and
sell
everything.
something
Yep.
and the state gets revenue from it, then it makes it very hard to
Back away.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. The next question is on a different topic. As the parent of a girl in sports, why should that child have to compete with a trans female whose DNA, muscle mass, etc. gives them an advantage? When you say inclusiveness, what are your thoughts on fairness? And follow-up is, why is it okay for a trans female to use the locker room with male body parts exposed around cis females? What should be done for privacy for all? I'm going to start with you, Ralph, on that one.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think at the high school level, it is not fair for a biological male to compete with girls. The physiological, like you said, is different, upper body strength, etc., and you can see this, and it's not fair for the females. Look at the past few years where a biological male broke all female swimming records in Pennsylvania. And what about the girls, say, in high school, competing, and they're ready to get a college scholarship, and some biological male takes a chance away?
Okay.
And that's been happening. In North
Would
Carolina,
it change your opinion if that male, probably not at the high school level because it'd still be a minor, but at the college level, if that biological male had reassignment, gender reassignment surgery, would it change your mind about that? Or
no,
still
because
no?
it depends
Okay.
on when. And also the big problem is, and there's no problem with a biological female playing male sports. If they can make the team, it's fine.
Well, back when my kids were playing sports, the girls were better than the boys.
At the middle school.
Because they had a much better sense of being able to pay attention than my boys.
In middle school.
And they did play with them all the way up
In
through
middle school, I think girls have an advantage because they're usually taller and whatnot. But once you
Taller
get
and
to high
smarter.
school, it goes the other way around. But can you imagine a biological male playing basketball,
15 words.
playing basketball with the girls' team?
Thank you. Joe?
I think this question is a little insulting to high school students. As a member of the LGBTQ community, we're looking at a group of kids in high school and middle school who are trans, who have the highest level of suicide rate. These kids in high school and middle school are looking for a place to belong, for a place to be a part of. If a trans woman can't feel acceptable in either place that they are, I think it's important for us to know that in high school and middle school, it's about belonging, and it's about making sure these kids feel safe, supported. And the issue to me is almost a non-issue, because I'd ask our current incumbents in New Hampshire, how many trans athletes do they know of in the high school level? They wouldn't be able to name any, because it's a non-issue that
We have trans.
we do, but like
Yeah, we do.
but how many of them are participating in sports that we can point to and say,
I don't know.
that's my point. It's a
And
non-issue.
I shouldn't know, actually.
Exactly. I don't think we should. I think we should just let kids in high school and middle school be their authentic selves, and let that just play out.
How do you think that affects the girl, though, who absolutely cannot compete with someone for
That
a sport?
if there's a trans woman, that person is not going to take away any scholarship from it. There's plenty of scholarship for people to get. The trans woman is not going to take anything away from the other people on the team.
Okay. What about the locker rooms? Because these are, in high school, these children are not, have not had reassignment surgery at this point. So a trans woman still would have biological male parts, and she is dressing in the locker room with cis females that, I mean, do you think there should be separate dressing rooms? Do you think there should be separate bathrooms? What do you think?
I think everyone should feel comfortable. So, and I don't want to make a blanket statement, because I don't know how locker rooms are set up. Are there individual stalls? Are there individual things? But I also want to make one more point about this. And if the U.S. Olympic Committee, the International Olympic Committee, they believe that trans people should be able to participate.
They're staggering. They don't seem to be able to really make up their mind.
No, they have. They can.
have?
They
Okay.
can. Yep, they can.
Okay.
And if you look at every sports organization, every doctor, everyone would argue that trans kids should be able to participate in the sports that they would like to play in.
Okay. Thank you. Rich.
When I was in high school, girls that really weren't able to participate in sports because there were no girls' sports. In 1972, at the federal level, we passed Title IX, which Title IX says you cannot discriminate based upon sex. Now, the idea of a trans person participating in a woman's sport depends on where that trans person is in their progression. If they have been a trans person for years and years and years, then yes, that their body has acclimated to that. If they've had the gender reassignment surgery or something, they are, for all intents and purposes, a female at that point. Now, we have trans people in the legislature that Ralph and I serve with, and I have seen these trans people, their physiological makeup has changed over the years. In the beginning, they look like a man wearing a dress, and as they go on and on, they begin to take on a much softer physique that
So you do think
pertains
that
to a
the
girl.
muscle, all those things change, the muscularization, I mean,
Yes,
okay.
in the
So
beginning.
here's my next question. What about the locker rooms? What should we do about locker rooms? That's the question, the next question.
First of all, we have a girls' locker room and we have a boys' locker room.
So where do we put these people?
The trans people?
Yeah.
I don't know, because we
Okay.
have two locker rooms, and to me, it's unfair to have those folks in either one of those.
Right.
If
Because you cannot put a trans woman into a male locker room and expect her to be comfortable in there. And you cannot take a biological,
The only solution that I
is a
would
private.
propose would be a separate, but a separate place for them to change clothes.
Okay, I'm gonna move on now, to our next little difficult subject here. What would your vote be if it was put in front of you at the State House requiring children to be vaccinated for COVID in order to attend public school? Joe,
Public schools require a variety of vaccines.
just this one. I'm only asking
I
about
know.
COVID.
I would say yes, because public schools require a bunch of
You would
other
vote
vaccines.
yes. Okay,
Yes.
thank you, Ralph.
No, and the
thank
CDC
you.
is the recommendation.
Rich?
I'd leave it up to the local school board.
People that are texting me, give me just time. Give me time. We're gonna hit all of your topics. I'm sorry. Thank you, Rich.
Leave it up to the local school board.
Leave it up to the local school board. Don't regulate it at the
I would
state
not
level.
make it
Okay, thank
compulsory.
you. Rich, I'm gonna have you go first on this one. Do you believe the New Hampshire 2020 election was fraudulent? If so, why shouldn't we think that you claim the same if you win? So if you thought that the New Hampshire 2020 election was fraudulent and you win this time, should we think that that was fraudulent too? Rich?
First of all, I'd like to say that people who make a big deal about the 2020 election are trying to pick a fight. That's my idea. They're trying to pick a
That's
fight.
kind of why I changed it from the whole nation's 2020 election. There was some situations in New Hampshire. Can we address New Hampshire?
In Wyndham,
Right.
we had a situation where the fold of the absentee ballot made the count, threw it way out of whack. And I think here in New Hampshire, we have a really good system of voting, an election system. I think the Secretary of State does an excellent job. We have excellent control at the local election level. And as long as we don't have our machines connected to the internet, I think we do a good job.
Ralph? Do you believe
yeah,
the New Hampshire election was fraudulent? Do you believe it was?
No,
Okay,
no,
thank
not
you.
at all.
So you don't. Joe, do you think that it was?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Nope. I think we have in general, federal and state, I think we have a very safe and fair election system.
Okay. What steps are you going to take to ensure women's rights in New Hampshire? How does your stance on abortion figure into your decision? Who didn't go first yet? Ralph?
Well, I think the current law now for abortion is good. 24 weeks, you have nearly 6 months to make a decision whether or not you want an abortion. Even after the 24 weeks, you have, if it's a medical problem and whatnot, you can still, and so that to me, that is not a big issue. And we have a lot of women legislators in New Hampshire, and they push women's rights, which, you know, I don't see, when I grew up when I was working.
What steps are you gonna take, though? How do you
They should all
support
be
women's
equal.
rights?
Equal rights, equal pay, and all that.
You
And
feel
when,
like
and when
those
I was
are-
working in the industry, we're all equal pay. It wasn't male or female. I mean, in the computer industry, I mean, you had a job and it was the same. You got in the same pay grade. It didn't matter what gender you were. But there are some cases where it's not, and I think that's wrong.
Joe?
I'm a pro-choice candidate. I believe the current abortion ban that New Hampshire has is too much. Any abortion ban is too much of an abortion ban.
So are you for full-term abortion?
I am for the government not dictating that. I'm for the government to not dictate when, if, or who a person decides to start a family. That decision should be made between that individual and their doctor. And if we
But yet you think that the
If-
the COVID shot should be between the state and the child, or the state and the school?
because there's already a precedent of vaccines that are required.
Okay?
Yeah, I don't believe that we should, if we are a live free or die state, we should not be dictating what a woman does with their body. And I believe I was actually disappointed. This was one of the reasons I decided to run in, for state rep, because I was a bit disappointed about the overturning of Dobbs. And I believe one of the incumbents actually voted for a bill to go to the floor that would have banned abortion at 6 weeks. And I believe those kind of views are not reflective. 70% of New Hampshire supports abortion and
What
reproductive
else are you
rights.
gonna do for women? What else are you gonna do to ensure women's rights? What else is there out there? I mean, is abortion
Well,
our
there's-
only issue that's
No, there's still
affecting
pay.
women?
There's
What
still
other
pay
pay
inequities.
inequities, and how are you gonna help that?
I would like to see a legislation passed for that protects all human rights and equality across the board.
Okay. Rich,
Yes.
Abortion.
what steps are you going to take to ensure women's rights in New Hampshire? And how does your stance on abortion figure into your decision? See, I didn't take their call, so they went to Jason.
With respect to abortion, up until very recently, there were no controls whatever on abortion in the state of New Hampshire. To me, that is a terrible situation with respect to the baby. Okay, the baby has rights.
I just
also.
I just wanna know briefly. Can you give it to me briefly? I know.
I think the current law, which says that at 24 weeks, the baby's viable.
Did you vote for a 6-week ban? Did you, Rich? Ralph?
I don't know. Not as far as I can remember.
Who did?
If I
Which
did,
one?
then
Which
it
one?
was.
It was Ralph. Ralph voted for a bill to go to the floor that would have.
Bill to go to the floor, but he didn't vote for the bill, because it didn't go to the floor.
But yeah, he supported a bill to go to the floor for a vote, though.
Okay.
Correct, yeah.
All right. Joe, you have support by AFT, the American Federation of Teachers, and NEA. However, you have not approached the Litchfield LEA. Does that highlight your lack of total involvement by not reaching out to this local group?
No, not at all. And I've met with members of our school board too. I have a lot of support from the teacher organizations in New Hampshire, and I'm committed to investing as much and supporting our school system as much as possible.
Okay, thank you. I did just get a note here to see if we can focus on Litchfield issues, state tax, water rates, can the state help, and PFOAs. We are gonna get there. We are absolutely gonna get there. I am trying to ask all of these tough questions because a lot of effort was put into these questions. And these decisions are being talked about at the state level, and they do filter down to us. Whether you think that maybe they're a little bit farther removed, they're not. So give us a little bit of a break while we go through some of these social issues. Do you vow to protect the rights of both POC and LGBTQ against further attempts by some in government to restrict and/or take away their rights? How does your voting reflect this? Rich?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
I know. Do you vow to protect the rights of both POC and LGBTQ+ against further attempts by some in government to restrict and/or take away their rights?
First of all, I have no idea what rights they're talking about. I feel an equality for all people, no matter what their sexual orientation. I don't know what rights they're talking about, so.
Ralph?
Yeah, same. Everybody's got rights according to the Constitution. And I don't know of any rights trying to be taken away of anybody, other than when it infers some people's rights might take away other people's rights, and that's a problem.
Okay, Joe?
Yeah, I would say the rights people are talking about would be, for LGBTQ people specifically, would be voting to reinstate conversion therapy, banning trans kids from playing sports, and outing kids in schools under the guise of parental rights. Those would be some of the bills that have been brought forth that have tried to diminish those rights of LGBTQ people. I think New Hampshire, for people of color especially, has a lot of work to do as we're a predominantly white state. So anytime that we can uplift and level the playing field for equity and equality, I'm all for.
Okay. Rich, do you want to respond to that briefly? Because you asked what the rights were that he was talking about, and he's just come out with 3.
Okay.
Conversion?
There was a bill to reinstate conversion therapy by Republicans, a bill to ban trans kids from playing sports in schools, and outing kids in school before they're ready under the guise of parental rights.
We talked a little bit about trans kids in sports. One thing I would say is
At the State House level, what happened?
I don't know what you're talking about at this. I don't know.
Was there a bill that was trying to reinstate conversion therapy where they took gay kids and said, you're gonna go to this church camp and they're gonna teach you to be straight? Was there a bill about that?
Not that I recall. Not that, one thing that I will say is that when Joe talked about outing kids at the high school level, I believe in parental rights. If parents bring a child into this world, they have certain rights and responsibilities. Till that child turns 18, that parent has a greater right to mold that individual than any teacher or counselor in the school. So as far as outing kids who are not ready when they're in high school, I believe a parent should be informed of everything that their child is doing in school and until they're 18. Once they're 18...
Conversion therapy, outing kids, what was the third one?
And banning trans kids from playing sports in school.
Banning trans kids.
Like Rich, parental rights. In other words, a school can't put a kid or anybody else into any of those therapies.
Okay.
It's up to the parent,
What about
period.
conversion therapy? How do you feel about
It's
that?
up to the parent.
No, this is conversion therapy at the state level where a parent can take a child that says it's gay and reinstate conversion therapy. You can send your child away gay and bring them home straight.
That never worked, so I don't.
No, it never did. No,
Never
it was
will.
a silly
So,
thing, but so.
I don't
not
know.
something-
I don't think it passed. I know there was
This
a
is something
bill.
you would vote for?
No.
Do you want to rebut any of this? I'm gonna give you a chance to rebut it, because I know that you bring it up heavily on your platform.
Yeah, I would, because the issue is very dear to me. I would say they have voted for these issues, and Governor Sununu was one who vetoed the conversion therapy ban before it was passed. So these issues have had support from the Republican Party, and that's one of the reasons, aside from reproductive rights, that I decided to run. And I feel like we need state reps in Concord who will defend individual rights and freedoms of everyone.
Yep.
And that's why I'm running.
Okay, thank you. That's the end of that one. Do you vow to do everything possible to save Social Security and protect the rights of senior citizens? Incumbents, does your past voting reflect protection of Social Security? Rich?
It's not a state issue.
No, not a state issue, but I don't know of any candidate, other than lies I've seen on television, about candidates going to do that, and none of them are.
None of them are state issues, not a state issue?
Not a state issue, and I would say, yeah, and I don't support it being privatized or being wiped away.
Okay. I have a huge question on the New Hampshire Freedom Accounts. I'm going to get back to that at the end. Here's another quick one. If you were elected as our state rep, would you vote to support stronger gun legislation?
I fully support the Second Amendment. I would support longer waiting periods and raising the age of some of high-capacity weapons, but that's
The
where I
age of
stand.
people that are able to use them?
To purchase, that's correct.
purchase, okay.
yep.
Ralph?
Second Amendment and New Hampshire's 2A amendment. Fully support it and will fight anything to change it.
Rich?
Yeah, I fully support the Second
That's
Amendment.
3 yeses.
Pardon me?
Fantastic. Look at that. You guys just found common ground. Nice job. Okay. We're getting back to, do you support full-term abortion? And basically you're saying you want no limits on
I'm
abortion.
saying the government should have zero say in when abortion can be done. And if you look at the percentage of people who do have late-term abortions, it's less than 1%, and it's always medically.
California is going for full-term plus a week, though, which is, to me, just, I mean, it's murder, isn't it?
But
At
no
the point where-
one who's pregnant for 9 months is that 9 months saying, I'm going to have an abortion. That's not, there's no examples
So
of that
why would you
happening.
go for?
Because it's medically necessary.
No, but,
But this isn't California. I'm
Right.
talking about New
Right,
Hampshire.
Right. Yeah, we are. Okay, that just baffled me because I read that the other day that they wanted.
Yeah,
full-term plus one.
I support the government having zero say in when a person should have an abortion.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Do you, no,
Definitely,
you do not.
it's
No,
a
you do not.
viable baby.
It's viable, baby. When is that?
Well, actually, it's a whole lot sooner than the 6 months, but with 6 months is what everybody seems to like, most people like.
Okay. Do you support defund the police? And do you support something reform? Do you support defund the police?
No, I have many cousins and uncles in the police and the armed forces, so I fully support that. I do believe that there is an opportunity to invest more in other social services to accompany police in those efforts, but no, I don't support defunding.
No.
That worked out real good for us, didn't it? 2 years ago, defund the police was everywhere, and that has worked out real good. Crime is up all over this country.
Okay,
No,
that's a
do
no.
not defund the police.
What should New Hampshire do about its drug and homeless crisis, Ralph?
It's a good question, and I don't know, it's city controlled in this case, and I don't know what really the state can do. We got all kinds of services to help, and a lot of it is a mental problem. Made to start up mental institutions again, I guess, because a lot of it is a mental problem. I've seen parents with
So
kids.
lack of, is what you're really saying, lack of facilities to help people?
Right, that also for what.
I don't want to help you with your question, but.
No, right. I see parents, people with kids that are homeless. No, that's child abuse. In that case, I think DCYS should take the kids and find homes for them. But that definitely, there is a problem. And a lot of it is drug related. And so we could probably need to put a control on the opioids and whatnot for drugs and get rid of
It's a really complicated problem.
It's
What about you,
complicated,
Ralph?
yeah.
Rich, what do you think New Hampshire could do about its drug and homeless crisis specifically?
Halloween's coming up in a couple of weeks.
Terrifying.
We are right now in the midst of a fentanyl crisis where the Mexican cartels are packaging fentanyl to look like candy. So everybody out there, be really careful with what your kids come home with on Halloween. The best thing that we can do with respect to the drug problem in New Hampshire is to control the southern border. That's where all the fentanyl's coming in.
That's not really something you're gonna have control of as a state rep.
We should do everything we can to support controlling the southern border.
Okay, thank you. Let's see.
I just say I didn't get a chance to answer
Oh
that.
my God, I'm so
can I-
sorry.
Can I just say
so
that
sorry.
I think we need to, I'll have to keep it short, but we need to just continue to invest in the nonprofits on the ground who are looking at these causes and to support the mental and social work that's being done. That's all.
Thank you, I'm so sorry about that.
It's okay.
That's what happens when I skip around as who's going first, but I hate to have the same person going first. Let's talk about some local issues. What can the state do to lower water, oil, and electric rates in Litchfield? There is this huge rate increase that has hit everybody's mailbox for power. It has doubled, the use fee has doubled. It's a use fee, I believe. It's gone from 22 to whatever. It's astronomically expensive. Who did that? How did that pass?
The cost of electricity through Eversource or whatever is largely driven by the lack of natural gas. And because the market of natural gas has risen so greatly, everybody's electric bill has gone up significantly, and the PUC has gone right with that.
Who voted that they could double their rates? Who gets to double their rates?
The Public Utilities Commission in New Hampshire.
So is there anything the state reps can do about that?
The only thing we can do is increase the availability of natural gas.
So we'd have to all of a sudden be able, some of our, part of our state now is able to get piped in natural gas.
But
would that help if we were able to pipe in natural gas, or is that not even a help anymore?
Where's the source? We need to increase the source of natural gas. Would help a lot.
How do we do that?
Get
Well,
Biden out of office.
if anybody's filled up their fuel oil tank recently, you'll notice that it probably cost you around $1,000 to fill up your fuel oil tank. Why is that? The high cost of electricity and the cost of filling up your fuel oil tank are directly related.
But
Okay?
what do we do? What do we do at the state level?
November 4th, vote with your brain and
So you think these are issues that are above the state legislature?
absolutely.
It started when 2 years ago, in January, and Biden said, I'm shutting down the pipeline.
Nope, we're not going there. Sorry.
That's where you have to go. That's the
No,
cost.
no, not going
That
there.
is the
I'm
cost.
asking you what you as a state rep can do.
Nothing, because it's a
Nothing.
federal issue.
It's a federal issue. Joe?
That we certainly can do something. If you look at the energy rates, electricity rates across New England, there have been increases in every state. But if you look at the New Hampshire and you single out New Hampshire, we're the only ones who have seen 110 to 120% increase in utility prices. Year after year, there have been people working to try to pass for us to invest in renewable energy sources in New Hampshire. Those have failed, and I believe that's why New Hampshire is in its current situation, because Maine, Massachusetts, and Vermont have all invested in these renewable energy sources. If we can expand our energy portfolio, so we're not so reliant on
So
one.
which of those what would you say would work in New Hampshire?
Wind and solar, but I think if we invest in wind and solar and we weren't so reliant on natural gas and oil, we wouldn't have to be in the situation we are now, which we're reliant on oil and natural gas, and they're currently experiencing high market values. And if we could dip into different sources and cheaper alternatives, then I think we should.
If you look in California right now, like with the rolling blackouts and not being able to charge cars and the price of doing windmills and how long they're saying it's taking all those windmills that are down in Massachusetts to pay for themselves, do you still think that that's a good option?
Yeah, I think if
There's
you,
lots of problems listed.
Governor Sununu's Department of Energy did their own independent study, and they found that if New Hampshire invested in renewable energy sources, that it would be cheaper utilities for us. So that was a Republican governor's own
Yeah.
Department of Energy came out with that same statistic. And like I said, if you look at the other surrounding states, they're not having as big of a price increase as we are, and it's because that we haven't expanded as quickly as they have.
For electric. Because our gas seems to be,
for electric, and
it always was less than mass, but now it seems to be evening out. We seem to be around.
And I think it's important to acknowledge too that the Public Utilities Commission is an entity that was handpicked by one individual from one party. And so as New Hampshire is a purple state, I believe that the entities and organizations that oversee price increases for a state should be representative of both political parties and everyone.
Can you rebut that, Rich?
Pardon
The PUC being picked by one party? Is that true?
I should have, but they were handpicked by Governor Sununu, and I believe that there should have been more bipartisan effort to flush out that committee.
Okay, so that's at the governor level. Ralph?
Yeah, I believe the PUC is just like other committees like that are supposed to be evenly divided. Like the PLRB, for example, they're supposed to be this many Republicans, this many Democrats, and somebody picked in the middle.
And the PUC didn't do that?
I believe the PUC is the same. I haven't looked at that. I know Rich and I went up to talk to them a couple of years ago about the water, which you had mentioned coming. That's coming.
That
But
topic's
the
coming,
problem
yeah.
with windmills and solar, what if there's a blizzard? Windmills get shut down and solar panels get blocked. So the blizzards and, those kind of things. One of the things that could have helped is the Northern Pass for electricity,
Okay,
and that was shut down.
okay. So have we all covered that? Does everybody feel like they spoke on that? Okay. There's a lot of topics, guys. I had to really cram for this one. You guys have really done a good job being able to answer my questions. I appreciate that. Nobody clicked their pens. Everybody put their pens down because it's, I guess, annoying on on the feed. So if we could stop that, that would be great. I'm probably doing it myself because I do that when I get tens
Who's
too.
doing that? Oh.
Can you each name 2 things that you have accomplished over the past few years that have positively impacted Litchfield? Rich, give me one thing that you've done.
Over the last 2 years?
I know you've done a lot more than one, but give me one. Which one are you most proud of?
Well, one of the things, Ralph and I sponsored a bill to make Saint-Gobain pay for all of the hardship that they have caused with respect to the water here in Litchfield. I also sponsored a bill to study how we can recruit more people who are getting out of the armed services to move to New Hampshire, and that was a bill that I was the prime sponsor and the sole sponsor, and it was passed, and the governor signed it. So what I think that we have a tremendous story to tell, and that people who are getting out of the service would be a great resource for us, and I'd like to see how we can get more of those people to move to New Hampshire.
Ralph?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, on following that bill that Richard mentioned, we got it passed the House. The Senate killed it, except DES did most of the things that we wanted in that bill, except for paying the water bill. The Senate killed it because, like we have a saying in the House, we listen to the people, the Senate listens to the lobbyists. But, yeah, and on the same thing, too, on the education, on the veterans thing, we changed the law to allow that. Used to be you get, for going to college, tuition for children of veterans. But that we needed to change the law to allow veterans of the reserves that went to active duty, and that wasn't covered. So that allows more veterans' children to.
That's one of your favorite accomplishments?
That's that, yeah.
Okay.
That actually made it through as compared to some of the bills that I did that didn't got to the Senate and the Senate killed them.
Joe, you, as a new candidate, one of your biggest accomplishments is just deciding that you're going to do this. I know. After that, is there anything that you've done or gotten to know in Litchfield that you've done that you feel is your biggest accomplishment in Litchfield?
Something that I would like to.
That has positively affected.
Yeah, something that I would like to add to that list is if I'm elected, I would like to. I do applaud.
I have goals coming up next.
Okay. Oh well, I just want to say I do applaud both incumbents for taking on Saint-Gobain and doing that. I thought that was a very nice thing that they did. I would like to, moving forward, the EPA has, if I'm elected, the EPA has a $5 billion grant that communities affected by PFAS can take advantage of. I would like to advocate for that as a representative and try to bring back any sort of support and that we can get for our community, whether we invest in better infrastructure or water filtration systems. That is something I would like to do.
Okay. Let's see, got that. Water, in town. I know, that there's problems with our PFOAs. There's problems with our water rates. There are problems with the service that our residents are getting. They're getting brown water. They're getting, from Pennachuck. Pennachuck used to list the PFOAs that they contain in their water, on their website. They don't anymore. What can we do at the state rep level to encourage to take care of Litchfield in those situations?
Well, this has been a major headache for me, being on this as a selectman. It's a major headache, and quite frankly, I have to admit I don't see an easy solution. We fought Pennachuck on the water rates and it went to the PUC. We had lawyers involved. It went to the PUC, and they gave them everything that Pennachuck asked for. One thing that long term that I think and the selectmen are now beginning to look at this is doing what Hudson did many years ago, and that's taking over the water system and have it run as a municipal water
Will the
system.
state help us with that decision? Is there anything we can get, like there's this funding for a grant for 500 million?
5 billion, yeah.
$5 billion? Is there something that the state reps can do to help Litchfield start their own water company here in Litchfield? So that we don't have to be relying on
Well, I'm not aware of anything. I'd be happy to do anything I could to help Litchfield at the state level. The other thing that we might be able to do is hook up with Manchester. But to this point,
Is Manchester's water better than ours?
well, it's a lot cheaper and it's just as good, but it's much cheaper. And there's actually people up around Corning Road who have Manchester water, and their water bills are much better than, or much lower than people who are on Pennachuck water.
Now, one thing we haven't talked about yet is these these Hudson state reps that are going to be on the ballot. Can we go to that for a second? It's over my head.
Well,
For the first time, we have Republican and Democratic candidates from Hudson that are going to be running to work at the State House for us as well. They'll be representing Hudson and Litchfield. And would that be something that we could work on with them as well? I mean, they're probably suffering some of the same Pennachuck problems. No, they're not. It's only
well,
us.
no, the back to what you had mentioned on the water. The water is not owned by Litchfield. Water is owned and controlled by the state.
It used to be owned by Hudson, though. Didn't we give
Oh,
the
yeah,
water rights
yeah,
to
no,
Hudson?
but the thing is, the wells
Oh, okay.
were owned by actually a company before, then Hudson bought Arbor Wells to do their water. And then they did control of our water, which they were taking the water and told it to Pennachuck, or let Pennachuck control it. And they went with another company. So I think something to do with Hudson might be opposite of what they want to do. I mean, but we can get them to help us too. The thing is, at the state level, what we did this year was we improved testing for lead in drinking water. We fund $25 million for PFAS remediation loan. That was mainly for Merrimack to fix their water. And I was still am, I guess, on the commission that was set up to look at St. Gobain. The problem with that, I dropped out of it because it was pretty much Merrimack only. For example,
Helping Litchfield at all.
they were testing and everything, which was fine. But for example, they did a cancer study in Merrimack for increased levels of cancer that may have been caused by PFOAs, with no proof that it was. The problem was they were supposed to do a whole study of the whole area. They never did, and they immediately posted the Merrimack results, how bad it was, and it wasn't really that bad. It needed a bigger study, and they didn't do it.
Wouldn't you have more impact, though, if you had stayed on there and yelled about Litchfield not being included? Than
Well, no, I mean, the commission is pretty much over with, so it would take,
What about the lawsuit that we have against them?
right now, St. Gobain is fixed, you might say.
They stopped having to add new
The stacks have been and whatnot, and they're constantly being monitored, so, yeah, they will be in trouble if they continue. And the thing was, St. Gobain bought a bad company,
Yeah.
and that's what happened, so now they are responsible, which they should be.
And I do know that you voted to not allow them to have another extension. I know that happened.
Yeah, I think,
It's a very,
yeah.
very
I mean,
complicated.
you remember 2 years ago, Rich and I, we were here and others putting in this bill we were gonna do and
Yeah, I
really
remember.
would stop them. And like we said, the Senate retained it the first year, it passed in voice vote in the House, because nobody wanted to be a record against it. And the Senate, they retained it, and then January of the next year, they quietly voted
Do you think we're
against it.
missing something because we're so immersed in it?
Yes, so I think if I can just put my 2 cents in
Yes,
for this PFAS
absolutely.
question,
Yeah.
it would be, I've been interested in the PFAS committee, which Representative Bowen brought up with Merrimack. And I do, from my understanding, is Litchfield hasn't had a representative show up for meetings in months. I think maybe Rich has attended a couple the last couple of weeks. But there was a prolonged period of time where we didn't have representation on that committee. And I think if we want to get a full understanding and be part of the process to fix the issues that are affecting our poisoned groundwater in our wells, we need an active person to be on that committee.
We had a citizens rep at one point.
It was Nikki.
Nikki.
Yeah, and she's no longer
Yeah,
here.
she left. We never got another one? You are citizens rep on that board?
Yeah, you were.
I'm a rep. I'm a citizen, so I guess I'm a. No, I think I'm considered a government rep.
Okay.
And can I just add one more thing too? If
Yeah, go
if I am elected as a state representative, I would like to see. You mentioned that Pennachuck stop reporting on PFAS in their water.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to explore creating an independent committee that would continue testing not only ground water but also the Pennachuck water and other utility companies' water for PFAS and other harmful chemicals.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Anybody on that PFAS question? I know it gets hot and then it gets cold and it goes away and it comes back. Anybody else on anything else on that?
DES is monitoring quite a lot, and anybody that wants to can get DES to test their water.
Okay, I have 3 questions from one resident that are for Joe, and I have 3 questions from that, or 4 candidates that are for you guys. How do you want those questions? Do you want one at a time? Do you want one back and forth? All right, Joe, I'm gonna ask you one.
Okay.
You stated on your website you wanted to raise the minimum wage. I see a lot of jobs posting hourly wages in the $10 to $15 range, yet employers are still not getting employees. Since money doesn't seem to be incentive to encourage workers, what ideas do you have that employers could offer?
Yeah, so I do believe in raising the minimum wage. I believe in $7.25 is what it is now. It's close to the poverty line for what it takes to survive in New Hampshire. Sorry, are you okay? I was like, don't laugh at me.
No, I'm not, I mean, at the real cost,
Yeah,
it
no,
wasn't.
And so $7.25 an hour, it's not a living wage in New Hampshire. And I understand that a lot of companies pay quite a bit more than that, $10 to $15. But that doesn't disclude the fact that thousands of people still make $7.25 as their primary salary as an adult. I do believe in increasing that gradually over a prolonged period of time. And according to the economic
But if
policy.
we aren't getting people to take the $10 to $15 range jobs, is there anything else other than?
Yeah, it's
What else can employers do to encourage
yeah.
at the state level, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, so if we're looking at a state that's going to be a great economic benefit for businesses to invest in here and people to work here, we need to make sure that we're paying competitive. So even if we are paying a certain amount of money, we're close to states that probably can pay more than we can. So we need to make sure that we're paying a competitive wage and that we're a state that fosters inclusivity, diversity, and individual rights and freedoms. I think those are really important to people, especially in my demographic, as they're looking for states to stay in. And so if we want to do that, we need to look at ways to make our salaries competitive as well as a state that works for everyone.
Okay, thank you very much. For Rich and Ralph, your opponent made a point on his Facebook in August to present a lot of bills that you either supported or vetoed, that Joe disagrees with your votes. Joe strongly supports the LGBTQ plus community. Can you tell us why you chose to vote on the following bills in the following ways? A, supported repealing same-sex marriage in New Hampshire. Ralph? Rich, one of you.
I mean, what year was that?
It doesn't say. It just says that you supported
the last
repealing.
few.
Did you support? Do you
I did
support
vote,
repealing
I did
same-sex
vote
marriage?
against it many years ago, but my point on marriage is, why is the state even involved with marriage to start with? And my
Okay.
whole thing is, the state should be out of this marriage business totally.
Rich?
As far as I know, I've never voted against same-sex marriage.
Okay. Did you support the Don't Say Gay parental bill?
I don't know what that is.
Well, first of all, don't say gay is a buzzword spoken by the woke people who want to make it illegal for parents to have control over their children. So there was no such thing as a don't
So
say
is it
gay
just,
bill.
I actually don't
It's a
know what it
parental
is
rights
either.
Yeah,
bill.
that's the Florida bill.
I thought it was California,
No. Oh.
but or the Disney bill, right?
I'm guessing the question is, you're right, I'm guessing the question is probably more towards the parental rights bill, which was designed as a way for parents to have greater access to their kid's life and school, but the problem with that, and I kind of alluded to it earlier, so I don't know if we need to rehash it again, but there are ways for parents to be involved with schools. There's school board meetings they can attend to. There's parent-teacher conferences. So, and what this bill does is potentially out a student to their families who we don't know what sort of home situation this student has. So, outing them before they're ready to tell their parents could pose a serious threat to their lives.
So I do know one of the, I've had a lot of questions about this one, and I took what I thought were the best ones, but I guess there was a child who the teacher asked the teachers to start calling them by, say it's John, and her parents referred to her as Jill, and the school didn't tell her, or something like that. Is that what this is? Is that the parental?
It's all tied together.
It is all tied together? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you would be against that. You would think I don't know how you hide that. Jill's report card's coming through as John. I mean, I don't know how you.
It could just be the way that they prefer to be called in class. But yes, I'm absolutely 100% against a parental rights bill. I think it's
Okay.
a very big disservice to the LGBTQ community.
Okay. Voted against transgender rights. Recently, he posted, I think we already answered this one. You sought to reinstate conversion therapy, ban trans youth sports, and outing students. I think we've already covered
Yeah.
that well. And a brief bio of boards, we've already covered that. So that's done. And then Joe, you stated on your website a lot of things that you feel need to be addressed, like affordable housing, better education. How would we pay for those? And you've already pretty much answered legalization of marijuana.
Correct, and taxing it, yep.
And taxing it. There has been a resident here for a few years. You have been a resident here for a few years, but you haven't run or served on a committee. Yet you talk about making our town inclusive and fiscally responsible. Can you explain why you believe being a state rep will improve or impact our town more than being involved in local town politics?
Yeah, the types of issues that I'm focused on, if we want to focus on utility costs, property taxes, reproductive rights, individual rights and freedoms, those are accomplished at the state level.
Okay.
So while I do have a huge investment in our town, I believe I can best serve at this point in time at the state level.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's see, how do you intend to keep Litchfield? How have you gauged what Litchfield residents are looking for? And I'm gonna combine this with a couple of other questions that were asked, but how have you gauged what Litchfield residents are looking for? How do you intend to keep Litchfield the highly desired community it already is? For the new person coming in, I would say, how do you intend to get communication? For the people that are already here, I would like to know how you are currently getting information. Rich?
Yes, following on with what Joe talked about with respect to participating and so forth, when I think about what makes Litchfield special, there's a lot of things that Litchfield is absolutely the best place to be in the world, as far as I'm concerned. But what makes Litchfield special? It's the people that make Litchfield special.
So how are you going to hear what they have to say?
How am I going to hear what they have to say?
Yeah.
Well, one thing, my wife and I have a front porch, and it says, we have a sign that says, "Welcome to the porch." I'm always, when I'm sitting out there and you drive by and you want to talk to me about any issue, feel free to pull in the driveway, come up, grab a chair, and we'll talk about it. Or you can call me and we can meet on the front porch. So I try to stay involved and in touch with as many people as
I can vouch for that. I was on the front porch when I was having problems with my mom's assisted living facility, and I needed help at the
and another thing,
state level.
Admission to the front porch, I do not ask if you're a Democrat or a Republican. If you talk with people who I've been involved with here in Litchfield, I have never.
There's much too much talk about who's a Democrat and who's a Republican, sometimes, in my opinion. Ralph?
Well, one of the things is why I started my cable show is to get more people input.
But yet you don't let anybody comment on it, Ralph.
Oh,
That
yeah,
was-
no, because I don't want Litchfield Facebook would shut it down. They can call me, they can email me, and that's where I have my email address right there. I don't want to put I have it on my Facebook and other Facebooks, but not on the Litchfield What's Up, because they quickly shut things down if they started getting people arguing. So I keep it that way. People can watch it. They can send me an email for questions, and that's how I figured. I did that show just to get input.
Joe?
Yeah, for the past 4 months, I've been going door to door across New Hampshire. I've knocked on hundreds of doors now, so I've been having firsthand conversations
Across
with.
New Hampshire or in
Sorry,
Litchfield?
Litchfield. I'm sorry. Yeah, not New Hampshire. not that big. I was a no to that. Across Litchfield,
Okay.
hundreds of doors across Litchfield since July. So I've been having firsthand conversations with people and what issues are most important to them. So I have a pretty good idea of what people in Litchfield are looking for as I've been talking with them. And moving forward, if I'm elected, it would be keeping that communication ongoing and continuing talking with the residents and continuing going to be in communication with the school board and other selectmen boards across, and all the other boards in Litchfield.
Okay. Next question. Do you support modern ways to acquire an education, such as, and we're going to get right into this now, this is like a big question. Do you support modern ways to acquire an education, such as charter schools, homeschooling, and remote advanced education, or do you think public education should be the preferred method?
Do you want to start with me or do you want to start with Ralph?
I'm going to start with you.
Okay. No, I am completely against the education freedom account, the voucher program that New Hampshire is currently taking advantage of. I believe in full.
Why?
Because I don't believe that public tax dollars in any way or shape or form should be used to go to a private or religious institution, and that's what's happening right now. If we look at the amount of people who it's supposed to be set up so if you're enrolled into a public school, you can then transfer to a private school of your choice. And what's happening is the statistics came out, and only 27% of the individuals who are enrolled in the program after the first year actually came from a public school. So the difference there is those people were not in public schools, and now they're dipping into those funds.
So I've gotten 5 articles sent to me about this, and I've tried to read them all, and I've tried to cram and understand it. And what I read is that it's $11 million over budget right now because the amount of students that we're going to sign up for was only thought to be 132, but it was really 1,360. Now, the only people that are supposed to have access to this money are people that are at 300% of the poverty level, which are people that are, for like a family of 4, it's $79,000. So what we're looking at is overspending, and it seems to be that it's more homeschoolers that were already homeschooling when this bill came up. That's what
Correct.
people are like saying to me, that they want it to be used for people to decide to go to private school, religious or other, but that instead it's being used for people who are already homeschooling.
Public tax dollars should stay within the public school system. In no way, shape, or form should any sort of public funds be used to go to a religious or private institution. I believe we need to further invest and support our public schools.
So you don't think it should go to homeschool, you just think that it should stay in the public school?
Yeah, I should think it should stay in the public. Yeah, and I don't think
Okay.
so. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Rich, sorry.
Okay, if you have a child who is failing in a school system,
Right,
and you try to put that child in a different institution that is not in the public because you feel that your child would be better served. If you're a wealthy person, you can put your child wherever you want. The current person, the doctor who is running against Governor Sununu,
Tom Sherman. Yeah.
yeah, whatever. But he has his child going to a private school costing $71,000 a year in high school in Massachusetts. Now, if you're in the middle of Manchester and the public school that you're going to is completely failing and you want something better for your child, and you decide that there's a private school that would work better, if you're a single parent or a poverty-stricken person, you can't afford to send it to that private school, all right? So the whole idea behind the education freedom accounts is to bring some competition to the education so that
so here's my next question on that. It was derived for that, to give some competition to the local public schools, to make them strive to be better, is what I remember when it was presented. But what's actually happening, now I've lost my train of thought, there'll be another one around, right? It's not giving that much money to the people. So this was a question that I had at like midnight last night that I obviously can't get a lot of answers to, is how much these people are actually getting that live in Litchfield from this fund. And because I can't find how much the state gives us. So it's a small amount of money that they're getting, and they're only getting a percentage of that amount because state funds given to the schools at this point have diminished to the point where it's less and less and less, and our enrollment is going down and down and down, and costs are going up and up and up. So the fact is that that a person that is getting a percentage of whatever that tax dollar is, say it's $1,000 per student that the state is actually giving each student here in Litchfield, what it's costing our students in our town, which is what affects
15,000.
is what I care about, is the percentage of that $1,000. It's not a lot of money. What I'm also hearing, and I at midnight was talking to a woman who's homeschooling her kids, and they tend not to use those funds and don't want to use those funds if they're well established because they don't want government control over their curriculum. And as soon as you start to use these funds, they then start to require different testings of your children and stuff like that. So that's what I've found out about it. Do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, let me fill in. First of all,
right.
I keep hearing it is not a voucher system. Okay, the money does not go to the parent. The money goes to an account that the parent submits a bill to,
Right.
so there's control over it.
Right.
So in other words, the parents do not get the money.
Like if they want to, so like a library card that they want to use to go
Right.
to Hudson,
And it's
or
and
to
and,
the
and
to
it's
the
being
zoo.
looked at to make sure it's real. Okay?
Yeah.
And for state funding, which you mentioned out, education is funded at the state based on the number of students in your school.
Right.
Okay? So if a student leaves for any reason, like they leave every time, people move, or, or if they're rich enough, like Rich said, you go to a private school. Now this supposedly helps those that are not rich enough.
That's what it's supposed to
Okay.
do.
So that fund then, the Education Freedom Account, that money that went to the public school is now going to that account.
Not all of it, though. percentage.
But no, basically, it's a set number, but it doesn't include the extras the public school gets for third grade reading, free and reduced lunch, those kind of things. The account doesn't get that.
Okay.
So, and also, charter schools are public schools, okay? People can, it's done by a lottery system. For example, if somebody in Litchfield wants to go to the Founders Academy or Academy of Science and Design in Nashua, they apply. And then every year, they pull names out of a hat.
So they get public funding.
No,
and
they
there's no
get,
tuition?
the charter school only gets the state portion. They do not get any local. Yet that charter school runs and get better outcomes with 1/2 or 1/3 because they don't get any local money.
How do you feel about that? That the school testing in Litchfield is not what one would hope that you would get out of a school that has the amount of money that's going into it.
So I would go back to a comment that Representative Lascelles made, and he mentioned the point of to make a better public school, you need to create competition. I don't feel like that's the right answer. I don't feel it's taking money away from public schools to give to another institution to then drive competition. It's not doing that. It's taking the taxpayer money that was already intended for schools and keeping it invested within that same school system. If you look at a lot of school districts, there's programs being cut, unable to fill positions. There's still a lack of investment in our public schools because we're 50th in the country.
We had an $800,000 surplus at the school budget line that they say was because they weren't able to hire. They had the money, they didn't have the people applying, is what they said that $800,000 surplus was. So I kind of not buying that. We have these surpluses, we're giving the schools too much money. They're not spending it all.
I think if you talk to any superintendent, principal, teacher, the people who are on the grounds in those schools, they would heavily disagree with that sentiment.
Then why are we returning $800,000? Why are we not spending it? I don't I'm asking as a local Litchfield resident. It seems like if we are having that shortage in our schools, which are what is important to us here at this tax base, why aren't we spending all the money that we have?
I think if you're personally concerned, I don't know that figure. It's the first time I've heard about it. So if you're concerned about that figure, then I would be even more concerned about an $11 million budget overspend over this.
That's at the state level.
But I'm
talking about at the town
But this is
level.
only year one of the program.
Oh,
so,
yeah, I know.
So like if it's already this expensive for this program to exist and we're only in year one, I'm concerned about investing in this program, which the people taking advantage of it are already in private schools or already homeschooling. I'm concerned about, as a taxpayer and a citizen of Litchfield, what that would mean for the future of it if we continue investing in a program that's just eating money.
You get 15 words. Go ahead, Ralph.
No, the thing is, and you brought this up, the homeschool, they're now doing the EFA. That does not make them a homeschooler anymore. They're an EFA student. Because and why a lot of homeschoolers do not want to do the EFA thing, because they do the EFA thing, then they have to be tested, state tested, to make sure they're doing okay. That's the problem with charter schools. Like I said, they're getting 1/2 to 1/3 of what the local public school makes, and yet they have better outcomes, because one of the things is the Board of Education, the State Board of Education, looks at charter schools every 5 years, and if not doing what they're supposed to be doing, they're cut. A public school can be lousy, which we look at the charts here, a lot of them are lousy. And sometimes it's like it's not money. Because sometimes you have poor districts with good outcomes, and you have rich district with bad outcomes.
Okay.
So,
Next question, different topic. Who has funded your run for office? Do you have local funds, self-funded, or funds acquired by your party affiliation? Rich?
I have received no funds from anybody.
Okay.
I use signs from 6 years ago, what signs I do put out. I don't look for endorsements. The only endorsement that I look for is the endorsement of the people of Litchfield.
Thank you. Ralph?
The same thing, I've not taken any money from individuals, companies, or unions. I get some Hillsborough County money, like which is they gotta send out a flyer on that they do. I don't get any money from them. And I think this year from different organizations, I've gotten $175 from the New Hampshire Liberty Alliance. That's it.
Okay, Joe.
I would say 95% of the funds that I've raised have came from either people in Litchfield, New Hampshire, or my friends and family who live across the country. The only other organizations that have supported me with money have been the New Hampshire Young Democrat group, and that was very, very minimal. But for the majority, it's people in town and my friends and family who've supported my campaign.
Okay, can I ask how much donations? Ralph has said he got $125 from Liberty. How much money have you gotten from donations locally?
I don't know that answer off the top of my head locally.
Okay. Okay, that's that. Guys, I'm really trying to get through these. Many years experience in other offices. No, I'm not gonna ask that, because we've kind of covered that.
Get the card, Diane, the one at the top. A couple of people asking that.
What will you or have you done that has had the greatest impact on Litchfield? I think we already did this question. We can ask it again. What will you or have you done that will have the greatest impact or has had the greatest impact on Litchfield? Joe?
Yeah, I think we did kind of answer this.
I think we kind of covered that a couple times.
Yeah, I would just what I would do is I would do everything in my power to invest in renewables to lower the cost of utilities. I would create the committee that would oversee PFAS in our water, protect individual rights and freedoms of everyone.
Okay. I get my hair done in Derry. I would absolutely give you by private message my hairdresser's name. And no, I don't think we need a poll on whether or not my hair should be darker or lighter. Thank you. Let's see. What are your thoughts on Harry and William? I'm not going to answer that. For rep seeking re-election, reflecting on your service in the last couple of years, are there things that you wish you had done differently in your service to the town? Rich? Do you have any regrets? You wish that you'd done something differently?
I wish I could have done more to solve the water crisis in Litchfield. I wish I could have made people's water bills go down. Other than that, I really don't regret any of the votes that I've taken. In order to be in a position at the State House, you have to have the courage of your convictions and not to not fall prey to following any sort of outcry. You have to do what you feel is best and let the chips fall where they may, and I think I've pretty much done that.
Ralph, any regrets?
Similar to Rich with the water, we've been fighting that. Also, a bill that I lost, that passed the House, was on the default budget, because I'm tired of showing the school board making the default budget higher than the operating budget, and to me, that is a disgrace, and it should never be higher. But it passed the House, and the Senate killed it. Again, they listened to the lobbyists.
Okay. I'm trying and phrase that to you. I know that this question was actually it was trying to be a little bit more inflammatory, and then I tried to calm it down when we talked to the person more, what she really wanted to know, and I guess that's part of it. There's been some division in town. Do you wish that you had stood up and supported people that felt like they were not being supported in town during that conflict?
What are you talking about?
I think they're talking about the library. You can answer it or not answer it. Do you wish you had stood up? Stand up?
No, I really didn't have anything to do with it. I feel everybody has a right to freedom of expression, freedom of press, so.
And they pretty much got that. There was a lot of talk in town. There was a lot of support for people that felt undermined. Do you wish that you had stood up and
No,
had
my
anything
thing is,
special to say?
I'm for the freedom of speech, freedom of religion, right to bear arms, the 10th Amendment. The problem is we're losing freedom of speech. And it's getting bad. Yeah, I don't know. I think for incidents in town, I don't really know. I mean, I should have maybe come out and supported more people for running for school board because we need some people there. But what happened recently. But no, not.
All right, here's another question. Did I give you a chance?
No.
But I don't know how to.
So are you talking about the library, like the books being checked out situation, or what situation?
Well, I kind of, but it's really looking back. Did you have? I'm not going to ask you the question
Okay.
because you know what? I think it's. Do you have any regrets? And I because you weren't in office or anything like that, I don't think you really have anything to regret.
Yeah.
Let's see. Frequently asked, and people say it's redundant. What would you do to ensure that New Hampshire is New Hampshire? Do you believe in an income tax? How do you support New Hampshire being New Hampshire and not turning into Massachusetts or other states that people moved out of to get to New Hampshire with its green valleys and beautiful nirvana that we are? Mm-hmm. What would you do to support New Hampshire continuing to be New Hampshire?
Yeah, there's a reason why my husband and I live in New Hampshire. It's because we love the state, and there's a reason why we chose Litchfield as our place where we're going to have our forever home. It's because we love this town. But yeah, I will always go against an income tax. I will never support an income tax. But I do believe that we need to do a better job at providing financial relief and taking burdens off of the people of Litchfield. And I think we need better representation at the state house who's focused on really living up to the idea of this is a live free or die state. So protecting the individual rights and freedoms of everyone, regardless of what the issue is something that I will fully intend to do if I'm elected.
Do you vow not to vote for an income tax at this
Yeah, I
point?
thought I said that already, yeah.
Did you already say it?
I said I will never support
You
an
never
income tax.
support an
Yes.
income tax. What happens if all the ideas that you have and legalization doesn't occur during this term or the next term? How are you going to be effective if that's the?
Well, I'm a working professional now. I work full time, so the income tax directly affects me and my family. As
So you still, no matter what, you'll do everything else you have to do, but you're still never going for that income tax.
Correct.
Okay,
that's
good.
what I said.
That's
yes.
what I want to hear. And I know you've taken the vow over there. Okay, thank you very much. Let's see.
Could I talk about that?
No, no, go ahead. Go ahead. Of course
No,
you can.
I think it's great to say we have too high property taxes. But what's the alternative? How are you going to fund that? We spend currently between $15,000 and $18,000 per pupil per year here in Litchfield on education. How much money do they need? There are other states that spend a lot more than that. Do they have a better educational outcome than we do? I think not. The amount of money that you spend is not directly proportional to the quality of education that you get. Parental involvement is a much greater determiner of the quality of education. So I think in New Hampshire, we have about the lowest state and local tax burden of any state in the country. And
Not at the property level tax, but at the whole state.
Total state and local property burden, we have about the lowest in the whole country, and I want to keep it that way.
All right,
Can I say one more thing?
Sure, absolutely.
Real quick. I will just say, while I've been knocking doors, I spoke with one teacher, and part of my campaign is really focused on retaining our workforce. Mm-hmm. And I've met a few teachers who actually teach in Massachusetts because they live by themselves and they can't afford to teach in the state that they live. And so to say that we're investing as more than enough in public education and teacher salaries, that's not true, because people are leaving our state to go work in other schools. And yes, we may have overall the lowest taxes in general, across the country, but that doesn't mean we can't do better at lowering property taxes like I intend to do by legalizing cannabis.
Okay. What is the grade you would give the state of New Hampshire as far as living in at this point? Quickly.
On a scale of 1 to 10, about a 15.
There you go. Ralph.
Give it a B plus.
Are we doing numbers or letters?
I don't care. It's individual freedom. Which would you like to do?
Yeah, I give it a B with the notion that we have there's a lot of potential and there's more work we need to do.
Last question that I'm going to ask is, if Litchfield votes for one Democrat and one Republican to represent our town in Concord, will you be willing to work with the other representative for the benefit of Litchfield?
Of course. I have never been a big party person. I mean, take a look at the people that I've worked with down through the years. A lot of those people are Democrats. I have no problem. Much of the work that's done in Concord is not partisan work. It's across the aisle work. I have no problem at all working with Joe or Mahendra. I hope he gives me a ride in his 65 Mustang.
We're sorry you're not here.
Yes, but
we did try to reach you. I'm sorry you're not here.
Yeah, it's similar. One of the best bills I got done in Concord some years ago was with the most liberal Democrat. And remember her testimony to the Senate was, it was her bill, and she said, you know, Representative Bohm and I don't agree on anything else, but we can work together. And one of the problems is not letting the party or the leadership tell you what to do, and they know better than to tell me what to do.
Joe, you're going to be treated like the new kid at the prom if you show up there at Concord. Yeah. Are you going to be able to work with our reps, or whoever of our reps may be the other candidate? If you need to, would you be able to take? Would you be happy if they took you under their wing?
Yeah, of course. I think not only would I do it, I was raised in an independent household, so my family growing up voted Republican. We voted Democrat. We're a very purple family. So not only would I do it, I think it's critical for Litchfield and the state of New Hampshire for people to work together, and that's one reason why I don't really stress my party affiliation a lot.
I'm exhausted. Are you guys tired?
Yes.
This has been a long discussion. It's 11:45. I really want to thank you so much, and I want to thank everybody who asked questions.
where's lunch?
Well, I was going to talk about dinner. There's dinner at the church tonight at the Litchfield Community Church, $10 a plate for adults, $5 for kids. It's a beautiful day out there today. There's a craft fair in Wyndham. There's lots of trails that are waiting for you to walk in town, and a lot of new people to meet and talk to. And I really appreciate getting to know you, getting to see you guys as always. Thank you so much, Litchfield, for being there for us. I'm happy to be here for you.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you, Dan.
And I got another meeting to go to.
Well, good for you. I'm gonna go to a craft fair. Thank you so much again, everybody, for being here. And that's it.